The rain fell hard on the night everything changed. Taeho sat alone in his farmhouse, listening to the storm beat against the windows. The lights flickered twice, then held steady. He did not move from his chair. He had been sitting there for hours, watching the darkness outside, thinking about nothing and everything at the same time. 3 years had passed since the accident. 3 years since he lost Yuna and little Somi. 3 years of waking up in an empty house, eating meals alone, and working the fields until his body was too tired to feel anything. The farm ran itself mostly. The machines did the planting and the harvesting. Taeho just existed day after day, waiting for something he could not name. He was 38 years old, but he felt much older. His hair had started turning gray at the temples. His eyes, once bright and full of life, now looked hollow. He had been a rescue pilot before, saving people from crashed ships and burning stations. Now he could not even save himself. The explosion in the eastern field made him stand up. It was not thunder. Taeho knew the difference. He had heard enough crashes in his life to recognize the sound of metal hitting ground at high speed. He grabbed his coat and ran outside into the rain. The walk to the eastern field took 10 minutes. By the time he arrived, he was soaked through. But he stopped and stared at what lay before him. A small transport ship had torn a long scar through his grain field. Smoke rose from its broken hull. Flames licked at the engine section, fighting against the rain. The ship was not human-made. The design was alien, with curves and angles that did not match any species Taeho knew well. He approached carefully. His rescue training took over, pushing away the numbness that usually filled him. Check for survivors. Assess the damage. Call for help if needed. The ship's main door had been ripped off during the crash. Taeho climbed inside, using his flashlight to cut through the darkness and smoke. The interior was small, meant for maybe 4 passengers. He found 2. They were not human. The first thing Taeho noticed was the scales. They covered the 2 figures like armor, shimmering even in the dim light. One had scales of deep blue, the other of soft purple. Their faces were almost human, but with sharper features and eyes that reflected his flashlight like a cat's. Small horns curved back from their foreheads. And when Taeho looked closer, he saw what looked like folded wings pressed against their backs. Dragons, or something close to dragons. Taeho had heard stories about the Yongan species. Their son had died, swallowing their homeworld. The survivors had scattered across the galaxy, looking for new homes. Most were not welcomed anywhere. The blue-scaled one was older, maybe mid-20s in human terms. She had scars across her arms and face, marks from old fights. She was unconscious, bleeding from a wound on her head. The purple-scaled one was younger, perhaps 18 or 19. She was awake, her strange eyes watching Taeho with a mix of fear and hope. She held her older companion tightly, as if afraid someone would take her away. "Please," the young one said. Her voice was soft, musical, despite the fear in it. "Please help us. My sister is hurt." Taeho looked at them for a long moment. He had not spoken to anyone in weeks. He had not helped anyone in years. Part of him wanted to turn around and walk away, to call the colonial authorities and let them handle it. But then he saw the way the young one held her sister, the desperation in her eyes, the love mixed with terror. He had seen that look before. In a mirror, 3 years ago. "Can you walk?" Taeho asked. The young one nodded quickly. "Yes, but Nari cannot. She hit her head when we crashed." Taeho moved to the older sister, the one called Nari. He checked her pulse, examined the head wound. It was not too deep, but she had lost blood and probably had a concussion. She needed rest and care, not a hospital. He could manage that much. He lifted Nari in his arms. She was lighter than he expected, despite her size. The scales were warm against his skin, almost hot. "Follow me," he said to the younger one. "Stay close." The walk back to the farmhouse was slow. The rain continued to fall, but the young dragon walked beside Taiho without complaint. She kept looking at him with those strange eyes, studying him like he was something she had never seen before. "What is your name?" she asked. "Taiho. I am Bora. Thank you for helping us, Taiho." He did not respond. He was too focused on carrying Nari, on putting one foot in front of the other. He was too busy trying to remember how it felt to care about something. The farmhouse was warm and dry. Taiho laid Nari on the couch and began treating her wounds. He still had medical supplies from his rescue days. The skills came back to him slowly, like remembering a song he had not heard in years. Bora watched everything he did. She asked questions sometimes, and Taiho answered with short words. "Yes. No. This will help." She needs to rest. By the time he finished, an hour had passed. Nari was still unconscious, but her breathing was steady. The wound was clean and bandaged. She would live. Taiho stood up and looked at Bora. She was shivering, he realized. Her clothes were torn and wet from the crash. She looked small and lost in his living room, surrounded by furniture that was too big for her. He went to find blankets and dry clothes. Yuna's old things were still in the closet, untouched for 3 years. He hesitated before opening the door, then pushed through the pain and grabbed what he needed. When he returned, Bora had not moved. She took the clothes with careful hands, her eyes wide with gratitude. "You are very kind," she said. "I am practical," Taiho corrected. "You were cold. Cold people get sick. Sick people cause problems." A small smile crossed Bora's face. It made her look younger, almost like a child. "You are still kind, even if you do not want to be." Taiho turned away. He did not want to talk about kindness. He did not want to talk at all. "The storm will last a few days," he said. "You can stay until it passes. Then you need to leave. Leave and go where?" "That is not my problem." He walked to the kitchen and started making food. Simple things, soup and bread. He made enough for 3, though he did not know why. When he brought the food out, Bora was sitting beside her unconscious sister, holding her hand. "Who is looking for you?" Taiho asked. Bora's expression changed. The softness faded, replaced by something harder. "Bad people, slavers. They call themselves the Syndicate. They hunt our kind for our scales." "Your scales?" "They are valuable. Some species believe they have healing powers. Others use them for decoration. The Syndicate captures Yongin and takes the scales by force. Many do not survive the process." Taiho felt something stir inside him. Something he had not felt in a long time. Anger. "Your parents?" he asked. "Dead. They died getting us to the transport ship. My mother held off the hunters while we escaped. My father was already gone." Bora's voice did not shake, but her eyes grew wet. "We have been running for 4 years. 4 years." Taiho tried to imagine it. 4 years of fear, of looking over your shoulder, of never having a home. He had spent 3 years in one place, and it had nearly destroyed him. How had these two survived so long? "The Syndicate," he said. "They know you crashed here." "I do not know. Probably. They have trackers. They always find us eventually." Taiho ate his soup in silence. Bora did the same, feeding small spoonfuls to Nari when she stirred slightly. The storm howled outside, and the farmhouse creaked against the wind. He should send them away. He knew that. Getting involved with Syndicate problems meant danger, violence, death. He had already lost everything once. He could not risk losing more. But then Bora looked up at him, and he saw Sami's eyes looking back. Not the same color, not the same shape, but the same innocence. The same trust that someone would protect her. You can stay until the storm ends, Taiho said again. After that, we will see. Bora smiled again. It was a small thing, barely there, but it lit up her whole face. Thank you, Taiho. You do not know what this means to us. He did know. That was the problem. He knew exactly what it meant to be saved when everything seemed lost. He just was not sure he wanted to remember. Nari woke up on the second day with fire in her eyes. Taiho was in the kitchen making breakfast when he heard the crash. He ran to the living room and found Bora on the floor, pushed aside, while Nari stood in a fighting position. Her claws were out, long and sharp, and her scales seemed to glow within her heat. Where are we? Nari demanded. Her voice was deep and rough, nothing like Bora's soft tones. Who are you? Where is our ship? Nari, please calm down, Bora said from the floor. He helped us. He saved your life. He is human. Humans cannot be trusted. Taiho did not move. He had dealt with frightened survivors before, during his rescue days. He knew that sudden movements only made things worse. Your ship crashed in my field, he said calmly. Your sister asked for help. I gave it. You can leave whenever you want. Nari's eyes narrowed. She looked at the bandage on her head, then at the blankets that had been wrapped around her. Finally, her gaze moved to Bora, who was now standing and brushing herself off. He really helped us? Nari asked her sister. Yes, he carried you through the rain. He treated your wounds. He gave us food and a place to sleep. Nari's claws slowly retracted. The glow in her scales faded. She did not apologize, but she lowered her arms and sat back down on the couch. The Syndicate, she said. Do they know we are here? Probably, Taiho replied. Your sister told me about them. You should leave as soon as the storm ends. And go where? Nari's voice was bitter. We have been running for 4 years. Every planet we go to, they find us. Every person who helps us ends up dead or worse. You should have left us in that wreck. Taiho looked at her. He saw the scars on her arms, the weariness in her eyes. He recognized the weight she carried. It was the same weight he felt every morning when he woke up alone. Maybe, he said, but I did not. The storm continued for 3 days. During that time, Taiho learned many things about his unexpected guests. He learned that Nari was 26 in human years and had been taking care of Bora since she was 14. Their parents had died protecting them, and Nari had taken on the role of mother, father, and protector all at once. She was hard and suspicious because the galaxy had taught her that softness meant death. He learned that. Bora was 19 and had a gift for finding beauty in broken things. On the second day, she discovered Taiho's farm drones in the storage shed. They were simple machines, designed to tend the crops and report problems. Laura named them. The small one became Daisy. The larger one became Rose. The one with the broken wheel became Lily. Why do you name machines? Taiho asked her. Because everything deserves a name, Bora said. Names give things meaning. Even machines. Taiho did not understand, but he did not argue. He also learned that Nari hated him. She did not say it directly, but he could see it in the way she watched him. She analyzed every move he made, looking for signs of betrayal. When he brought food, she waited until he ate first, checking for poison. When he offered supplies, she examined them for trackers or traps. You do not have to trust me, Taiho told her on the third night. But you do have to eat. Starving yourself will not help your sister. Nari glared at him. You do not know anything about helping my sister. I know what it looks like when someone is trying to die. The words hung in the air between them. Nari's expression shifted, just for a moment. Something passed through her eyes, something like recognition. You lost someone, she said. It was not a question. Taiho did not answer. He simply placed the food in front of her and walked away. On the fourth day, the storm ended. The sun rose over the wet fields, and the world outside looked clean and new. Taiho walked to his porch and stared at the sky, trying to decide what to do next. He should send them away. The smart thing, the safe thing, was to give them supplies and point them toward the nearest settlement. Let someone else deal with the syndicate problem. Let someone else take the risk. But then he heard Bora laughing inside the house. She was playing with the farm drones, making them dance in patterns, while Nari watched with something that almost looked like a smile. And Taiho realized that he had not heard laughter in his home for 3 years. The syndicate arrived that afternoon. Taiho was working in the field when he saw the ship. It was sleek and black, designed for speed and stealth. It landed at the edge of his property, and 5 figures emerged. They wore dark uniforms and carried weapons that glowed with energy. Their leader was tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 eyes. A Velthan, Taiho recognized, known for their cruelty and their long memories. Taiho walked to meet them, keeping his hands visible. Behind him, he knew, Nari and Bora were watching from the farmhouse window. "Good morning," Taiho said. "Can I help you?" The Velthan studied him with all 4 eyes. "I am Captain Hyuk. We are searching for 2 Yongin fugitives. Our sensors detected their ship crashing in this area 3 days ago." "There was a crash," Taiho admitted. "Storm brought down some debris in my eastern field. I cleaned it up. And the passengers?" "No passengers. Just wreckage." Hyuk smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "You are lying, human. I can smell them on you. Their scales leave a scent that lingers for days." Taiho kept his expression neutral. "Maybe the scent came from the wreckage. I spent hours cleaning it up. Or maybe they are hiding in your home right now." Hyuk took a step closer. "The syndicate rewards those who cooperate. We punish those who do not. Choose wisely." Taiho thought about Yuna. He thought about Somi. He thought about all the people he had failed to save during his years as a rescue pilot. He thought about the emptiness that had filled him for 3 long years. And he made his choice. "There is nobody in my home," he said. "Now get off my property." Hyuk's smile faded. "You are making a mistake, human. We will return with more soldiers. We will search every building, every field, every corner of this pathetic farm. And when we find them, we will make you watch what we do." I said, "Get off my property." For a long moment, Hyuk stared at him. Then he laughed, a cold and empty sound. "Brave. Stupid, but brave. Humans are always the same. You think your courage means something. It does not. It just makes your death more entertaining." The syndicate soldiers returned to their ship. Taiho watched them go, his heart pounding in his chest. When the ship finally disappeared into the sky, he let out a breath he did not know he had been holding. He walked back to the farmhouse. Nari met him at the door, her expression unreadable. "Why did you do that?" she asked. "Do what?" "Lie for us. Risk yourself. We are strangers. We are not even human." Taiho looked past her, to where Bora was watching with wide eyes. "I do not know," he admitted. "Maybe I am tired of doing nothing." Nari studied him for a long time. Then she nodded slowly. "They will come back. Hyuk does not forget. He does not forgive. I know. We should run. We can leave tonight, find another planet, start over, and keep running forever?" Nari did not answer. She knew there was no answer. Bora walked over and stood beside her sister. She looked up at Taiho with those strange, beautiful eyes. "You could have given us up," she said. "You would have been safe." "Maybe," Taiho said. "But I would not have been able to live with myself." "Can you live with the danger?" He thought about the question. He thought about the empty days and the silent nights. He thought about the photographs on his shelf, turned face down so he would not have to see them. "I do not know," he said honestly, "but I would rather die trying to protect someone than die waiting for nothing." Bora reached out and took his hand. Her scales were warm against his skin. "Then we will face them together," she said. Now I watched the exchange without speaking. Something changed in her eyes, something small but real. She did not smile, but the hardness in her face softened just a little. "You are a fool, human," she said. "Maybe," Taiho agreed. "But at least I am not a coward." That night, Taiho began to plan. He pulled out old maps and equipment from his rescue days. He contacted former colleagues, feeling strange using communication channels he had ignored for years. The syndicate would return. They would bring more soldiers, more weapons, more cruelty, but they would also find something they did not expect: a human who had finally found a reason to fight. They left the farm before sunrise. Taiho had prepared everything the night before. Supplies for 2 weeks, medical equipment, maps of the colony's wilderness areas, a destination that only a few people in the galaxy knew about. "Where are we going?" Nari asked as they walked through the dark fields. "An emergency station in the mountains," Taiho explained. "I helped build it during my rescue pilot days. It is completely off the grid. No power signatures, no communication signals. The syndicate will not find it." "How far?" 8 days on foot. Maybe 7 if we move fast." Nari looked back at Bora, who was struggling to keep up. The younger sister was not built for long journeys. She was tired before they even started. "Bora cannot walk for 8 days straight," Nari said. "Then we will take breaks. We will move at her pace. That will slow us down." "I know." Nari stopped walking. She stared at Taiho in the dim light of early morning. "Why you care? She is not your responsibility. Neither of us are." Taiho met her gaze without flinching. "You are right. You are not my responsibility. But I chose to help anyway. If you do not like my methods, you can find your own way." For a moment, he thought Nari might actually leave. Her body tensed and her hands curled into fists. But then, Bora caught up to them, breathing hard, and put a hand on her sister's arm. "Please," Bora said softly, "let us not fight. We are all tired. We are all scared. But we are also together. That has to mean something." Nari's tension slowly faded. She looked at Bora with an expression that Taiho had not seen before. Love, pure and unguarded. "Fine," Nari said. "We follow the humans' plan. For now." The first 3 days of the journey were difficult. They traveled through forests that had never been settled, following paths that only existed on Taiho's old rescue maps. The terrain was rough and uneven. Rocks waited to twist ankles. Streams needed to be crossed carefully. Animals watched from the shadows, curious about the strange travelers. Nari took the lead, using her sharp senses to spot dangers before they became problems. Her blue scales seemed to change color slightly in the forest light, shifting from dark blue to almost black. She moved like a predator, silent and alert. Bora walked in the middle, protected by both Taiho and her sister. Despite the hardship, she found ways to enjoy the journey. She collected interesting stones and pretty leaves. She hummed songs that Taiho did not recognize, melodies from a world that no longer existed. Taiho brought up the rear, watching their backs and marking their trail. His body remembered how to move through wilderness, even though his mind had forgotten. Muscles that had gone soft from years of farming began to remember their purpose. On the 3rd night, they made camp in a small cave. Taiho built a fire while Nari secured the entrance. Bora prepared what little food they had, making simple meals seem special with her care and attention. "Tell me about your world," Taiho said as they ate. Before the sun died, Bora's face lit up. "It was beautiful. We lived in cities made of crystal. The buildings caught the sunlight and scattered it into rainbows. At night, the 3 moons would rise, and the whole world would glow silver. We had gardens that grew in the sky, Nari added quietly. Floating platforms covered in flowers and trees. Children used to play in them, jumping from cloud to cloud. It sounds wonderful. It was. Nari's voice grew hard. And then it was gone. The scientists told us the sun was dying, but no one wanted to believe them. By the time we started building evacuation ships, it was too late. Millions died. Billions. How did you escape? The sisters exchanged a look. Bora nodded slightly, giving permission for the story to be told. Our father was an engineer, Nari said. He saw the truth before others did. He built a small ship in secret, just big enough for our family. When the evacuation started to fail, when the syndicate began capturing refugees for their scales, he made us leave. Your mother? She stayed behind to fight. They were hunters at our door. Someone had to hold them off. Nari's hands tightened on her cup. She told us to run and not look back. So we ran. And your father? He got us to the ship. He launched it into space. And then a syndicate blast hit the hull. Nari closed her eyes. He died holding the ship together long enough for us to escape the atmosphere. The fire crackled in the silence that followed. Taiho stared at the flames, remembering his own losses. I was a rescue pilot, he said finally. For 15 years, I saved people from crashes and disasters and attacks. I thought I was good at it. I thought I could protect anyone. He paused, gathering the words that he had not spoken in 3 years. I had a wife named Yuna. She was kind and patient and loved to laugh. We had a daughter named Somi. She was 7. She liked to draw pictures of spaceships and dream about traveling to other worlds. What happened? Bora asked gently. I was on a rescue mission. A transport ship had crashed in the outer territories, and I was the closest pilot. I left Yuna and Somi on a passenger shuttle heading to the main settlement. I told them I would meet them for dinner. Taiho's voice grew quiet. The shuttle's engine failed. It fell from the sky while I was saving strangers on the other side of the planet. By the time I got there, the wreck was already cold. Nari was watching him now, her expression different. The suspicion was still there, but something else had joined it. Understanding. You blame yourself, she said. It was not a question. Every day. If I had been there, maybe I could have done something. Maybe I could have flown the shuttle myself or found a way to fix the engine. Maybe they would still be alive. Or maybe you would all be dead, Nari said bluntly. You cannot know. You can only guess, and guessing solves nothing. Taiho looked at her. Is that how you live with it? The guilt? No, I live with it by keeping Bora alive. Every day she survives, I prove that my parents' sacrifice meant something. Every day, I push the guilt a little further away. Bora reached across the fire and took Taiho's hand. Her scales were warm, comforting. Maybe that is why the universe brought us together, she said. 3 broken people who can help each other heal. Taiho did not believe in the universe having plans. But he did not pull his hand away either. On the 6th day, the syndicate found them. Taiho spotted the trackers first, small flying drones that scanned the forest below. He pulled the sisters into a narrow canyon, hiding beneath an overhang of rock. How did they find us? Bora whispered. They must have sensors that can detect yang and heat signatures, Taiho said. Your scales are warmer than human body temperature. Nari growled softly. We are always hunted. Our own bodies betray us, not if we use that against them. Taiho studied the canyon walls. Years of mining had left explosive charges buried in the rock, markers for potential excavation sites. Most were old and unstable, perfect for what he had in mind. I can trigger a rock slide, he said. It will block the canyon entrance and take out the trackers. But it will also slow us down. How much? An extra day. Maybe 2. Nari shook her head. Too risky. We should keep moving, stay ahead of them. They are faster than us. They have vehicles and drones. If we run, they will catch us before we reach the station. So, we fight instead? No, we make them think we are dead. Taiho explained his plan quickly. The sisters listened, their expressions shifting from doubt to hope. When he finished, Nari was almost smiling. You are insane. Human. I prefer creative. The explosion was larger than Taiho expected. He triggered the charges from a safe distance, watching as tons of rock crashed down into the canyon. The Syndicate drones were caught in the blast, crushed and buried beneath stone and debris. But the explosion also caught Taiho. A piece of flying rock struck his shoulder, spinning him around and throwing him to the ground. Pain exploded through his body, sharp and hot. He tried to stand, but his legs would not cooperate. NAR, I was there in an instant, lifting him with strength that should have been impossible for her size. Hold on, she said. We are almost there. The next 2 days were a blur of pain and movement. Taiho drifted in and out of consciousness, carried by Nari through terrain that would challenge a healthy person. She did not complain. She did not stop. She just kept moving, hour after hour, putting one foot in front of the other. Bora stayed beside them, treating Taiho's wounds with the medical supplies he had brought. She sang songs in her language, soft melodies that seemed to ease the pain. Why are you doing this? Taiho asked during one of his lucid moments. You could move faster without me. We could, Nari admitted. But we will not. You risk yourself for us. Now we risk ourselves for you. That is how it works. That is how it works. Nari looked at him with those strange, beautiful eyes. Family. On the 8th night, they reached the emergency station. It was exactly as Taiho remembered. A small building hidden in a mountain cave, invisible from the air and protected by natural rock formations. Inside, there were beds, supplies, a medical bay. Everything they needed to rest and recover. Bora helped Taiho to one of the beds while Nari secured the entrance. The station's lights flickered on, powered by a geothermal generator that had been running silently for decades. We made it, Bora said, her voice full of wonder. We actually made it. Taiho looked at her, then at Nari, who was standing guard by the door. These 2 aliens had carried him through the wilderness, risked their lives for his, called him family. For the first time in 3 years, he felt like he belonged somewhere. Weeks passed in the hidden station, and life found a new rhythm. Taiho's shoulder healed slowly. Nari changed his bandages every day, her touch surprisingly gentle for someone so fierce. Bora made sure he ate and rested, watching over him like a worried daughter. It felt strange, being cared for. Taiho had spent 3 years taking care of nothing but crops and machines. Now he had 2 alien sisters fussing over him, making sure he did not push himself too hard. You need to eat more, Bora said one morning, placing a larger portion on his plate. I am fine. You are too thin. Humans need more food to heal. I read about it in the station's medical database. Taiho looked at her plate, which was half the size of his. And what about you? I am a Yongin. We need less food. Our bodies are more efficient. Nari snorted from across the room. She is lying. She gave you her share. Bora's purple scales flushed slightly, changing to a deeper color. That is not true. I just was not hungry. You are always hungry. You complained about being hungry 3 times yesterday. I was not complaining. I was just making observations about my physical state. Taiho felt something bubble up inside him. It took a moment to recognize the feeling. Laughter. He was laughing. The sound surprised all three of them. Bora's eyes went wide. Nari actually stepped back, as if she had seen something unexpected and dangerous. "What is funny?" Bora asked. "You two," Taiho managed. "You argue like sisters. We are sisters." "I know. But you also act like sisters." "It is different." Bora tilted her head, confused. Nari just crossed her arms and looked away, but Taiho could see the corner of her mouth twitching. From that day on, things began to change. Taiho started teaching Nari how to fight. Not the wild, desperate combat she had learned on the streets, but proper techniques. Strikes and blocks and movements that use the body efficiently. "You are too aggressive," he told her during one training session. "You attack with everything you have and leave nothing for defense. I do not need defense. I need to destroy my enemies." "And what happens when you face an enemy you cannot destroy in one attack? What happens when you get tired?" Nari scowled. "I do not get tired. Everyone gets tired. Even dragons. They practice for hours every day." Slowly, Nari began to understand what Taiho was teaching. Her movements became smoother, more controlled. Her attacks became sharper. Her defenses became real. "You are good at this," Nari admitted one evening. "Better than I expected. I trained rescue teams for years. Half of rescue work is knowing how to fight. Why did you stop?" Taiho was quiet for a moment. "I lost my reason to fight. Without Yuna and Somi, nothing seemed worth the effort anymore." Nari nodded slowly. She understood loss. She understood what it meant to lose your purpose. "And now?" she asked at Date, who looked across the station, where Bora was working on the old communication array. She had cleaned it, repaired broken circuits, made it functional again. "Now I have something worth protecting again." Bora's project with the communication array became her obsession. She spent hours each day fine-tuning the equipment, boosting its range, making it capable of reaching across the stars. When Taiho asked what she was trying to do, her eyes lit up with hope. "There are other Yongin survivors scattered across the galaxy," she explained. "Small groups, hiding like we are. If I can contact them, maybe we can help each other. Maybe we are not as alone as we think. The Syndicate monitors communications. If you send a signal, they might trace it. I know. That is why I'm being careful. I am using old encryption codes from our homeworld, frequencies that the Syndicate does not know about. Are you sure?" Bora's expression softened. "No, but I have to try. We have spent 4 years running and hiding. It is time to start reaching out." Taiho could not argue with that. He knew what it felt like to hide from the world, to close yourself off from everyone and everything. He also knew how empty that life became. "Be careful," he said. "I will. I promise." On the 32nd day, something changed. Taiho caught himself humming while he cooked breakfast. He had not hummed a song in 3 years. He did not even remember the tune, but his body seemed to know it anyway. Bora heard him and smiled. "That is a nice melody. What is it?" "I do not know. Yuna used to sing it sometimes. I guess I still remember." It was the first time he had spoken his wife's name without feeling like he was being crushed. The pain was still there, but it had become something different, softer, more like memory than wound. That night, Taiho finally turned the photographs on his shelf right side up. Yuna's face looked back at him, frozen in a moment of happiness. Somi was there too, grinning with the gap in her teeth that she had been so proud of. They looked beautiful and alive and gone. "She was pretty," Bora said softly. She had appeared beside him without making a sound. She was. She was also kind and stubborn and terrible at cooking, but refused to admit it. "And your daughter?" "Somi was perfect. She had her mother's eyes and my stubbornness. She wanted to be an explorer when she grew up. She said she would visit every planet in the galaxy. Bora reached into her pocket and pulled out something small. It was a drawing, done on station paper with whatever colors she could find. "I made this for you," she said. Tejo took the drawing and stared at it. It showed two suns rising over a field of grain. The colors were warm and hopeful, oranges and yellows and golds. "It is a Yongin symbol," Bora explained. "We call it the Double Dawn. It means new beginning. I thought maybe you could use one." Tejo did not know what to say. The drawing was simple, almost childlike, but it carried more meaning than he could express. "Thank you," he managed. "You are welcome. You gave us a new beginning. It is only fair that we give you one too." She left him alone with his photographs and his new drawing. Tejo stood there for a long time, looking at the past and the future sitting side by side. The Syndicate found them on the 40th day. Bora's communication signal had been traced despite all her precautions. Captain Hyuk arrived with a full assault team, ships and soldiers, and weapons enough to destroy the entire mountain. "They are coming," Nari said, watching the sensors. 2 days, maybe 3. They are moving carefully, checking for traps. Tejo looked at the screen showing the approaching force. 12 ships, probably 100 soldiers. More than enough to kill 3 people hiding in a cave. "We can run," Bora said. "There are tunnels that lead deeper into the mountains. Maybe we can escape." "Escape to where?" Nari asked. "They found us here. They will find us again. Running only delays the end. Then what do we do?" Tejo was quiet. He was thinking about his rescue days, about all the times he had faced impossible situations. He was thinking about the people he had saved and the people he had lost. He was thinking about Yuna and Somi and what they would want him to do. "We fight," he said. Nanar. I turned to look at him. 3 against 100? That is suicide? Maybe not. Tejo walked to the station's old communication console. He began typing commands, opening channels he had not used in years. "What are you doing?" Bora asked, calling for help. The first response came within an hour. An old friend named Junho, a rescue pilot who had retired to a nearby colony. "Tejo? Is that really you? I thought you were dead." "Not dead. Just hiding. I need help, Junho. The kind of help that might get you killed." There was a long pause on the other end. "Tell me." Tejo explained everything. The Dragon Sisters, the Syndicate, the army that was coming to destroy them all. He did not hide anything or make it sound better than it was. "So you are asking me to risk my life for 2 aliens I have never met?" Junho said. "Yes, that is insane. I know." Another pause. Then Junho laughed. "Good thing I was never very sane. I will be there by tomorrow. And I know a few others who might want to help." By the next evening, 12 people had arrived at the hidden station. They were rescue pilots and retired soldiers, farmers and engineers, and ordinary people who remembered what it meant to help others. They came with weapons and supplies and something more valuable than either. They came with hope. Nari watched them set up defenses and prepare for battle. Her expression was strange, confused. "I do not understand," she said to Tejo. "These people do not know us. We are not even the same species. Why would they risk their lives?" Tejo looked at her. "Because that is what humans do. We help each other. We help anyone who needs it. It is not logical or efficient. It is just who we are, even if it gets you killed. Especially then. The best things in life are worth dying for." Nari was silent for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer than Tejo had ever heard it. "Humans are strange creatures. Yes, we are. But I think I am beginning to understand why my parents respected your kind. They always said humans had something special. I did not believe them until now. Tai-ho put a hand on her shoulder. Your parents were right. And so are you. We are strange. We are stubborn. We do not know when to give up. He looked out at the mountain valley, where Hyuk's forces would soon appear. Tomorrow, we show the Syndicate what happens when they threaten our family. Nari's scales glowed slightly in the fading light. This time, when she smiled, there was nothing hard about it at all. Yes, she said. We do. The battle began at dawn. Syndicate ships descended through the clouds like metal birds of prey, their weapons charged with deadly light. Their soldiers poured out in waves, armored and armed and ready to kill. Captain Hyuk's voice boomed across the valley through speakers. Surrender the Yongin fugitives, and we will spare the rest of you. Resist and everyone dies. Tai-ho stood at the entrance of the hidden station, watching the enemy approach. Beside him, Nari's scales glowed with inner heat. Behind them, Bora worked frantically at the communication array. No answer to give, Tai-ho called back. They are not fugitives. They are family. You want them. You go through us. Hyuk laughed. The sound was cold and cruel. So be it. Kill them all. The first wave of soldiers charged up the mountain path. They expected easy prey, frightened civilians hiding in a cave. They found something very different. Tai-ho's volunteers had spent the night preparing the terrain. Hidden traps, explosive devices, falling rocks triggered by simple wires. The first 30 soldiers never even saw what hit them. Push forward. Hyuk screamed from his command ship. They are only humans. But that was exactly the problem. They were humans. They did not fight fair. They did not fight logical. They fought with everything they had and everything they could improvise. JUNHO led a team through old mining tunnels, appearing behind enemy lines and causing chaos before vanishing again. A farmer named Minji used her knowledge of the mountain winds to spread smoke and confusion. An engineer named Dongyun turned the station's power grid into a weapon. Shocking soldiers who touched certain rocks. And Nari, fierce blue dragon, became death itself. She moved through the battle like a force of nature. Her claws cut through armor. Her heat melted weapons. Soldiers who had hunted her kind for years suddenly understood what it meant to be prey. This is for my mother, she snarled, taking down 3 soldiers at once. This is for my father. This is for every Yongin you murdered. Tai-ho fought beside her, covering her blind spots, warning her of attacks she could not see. They moved together like they had trained together for years instead of weeks. But the Syndicate had numbers. For every soldier they stopped, 2 more appeared. The defenders were pushed back, step by step, toward the station entrance. We cannot hold them much longer, Junho shouted through the communication channel. There are too many. Just a little more, Tai-ho replied. Bora needs more time. Inside the station, Bora was doing something no one expected. She had connected the communication array to every public broadcast network in the sector. Every colony, every ship, every station within range was receiving the same signal. They were watching the battle in real time. My name is Bora. She spoke into the transmitter, her voice calm despite the explosions outside. I am a Yongin, one of the last survivors of a dead world. The Syndicate has hunted my people for our scales. They have killed millions. Today, they are trying to kill the humans who protected us. The image showed the battle raging outside. It showed Tai-ho and Nari fighting side by side. It showed ordinary people risking their lives for strangers. This is what humanity looks like, Bora continued. This is what they do. They do not ask if you deserve help. They do not calculate if the risk is worth it. They simply see someone in need and they act. Across the sector, millions of beings watched. They saw a small group of humans fighting an army. They saw two dragon sisters who had been running for years, finally standing their ground, and something shifted. The first Galactic Community peacekeeping ship arrived within an hour, then another, and another. By the time the sun was high in the sky, the Syndicate was surrounded by a fleet of ships from a dozen different species. "This is Commander Yunjin of the Galactic Community Peacekeeping Force," a voice announced over all channels. "Syndicate vessels, you are ordered to stand down immediately. Any further acts of aggression will be met with overwhelming force." Hyuk's command ship tried to run. It did not get far. 3 peacekeeping cruisers blocked its path, their weapons trained and ready. On the ground, Syndicate soldiers threw down their weapons and surrendered. The battle was over. Taiho sat on a rock outside the station, too tired to stand. Blood dripped from a cut on his forehead. His entire body ached, but he was smiling. Nari stood beside him, her scales dimming back to their normal blue. She had taken wounds too, but nothing serious. Yongding healed faster than humans. "We won," she said, as if she could not quite believe it. "We did. I did not think it was possible. 12 people against an army. It should not have worked, but it did." Bora came running out of the station, tears streaming down her face. She threw her arms around both of them, laughing and crying at the same time. "The whole sector saw it," she said. "Millions of people. They called their governments. They demanded action. The peacekeepers had no choice but to respond. You broadcast the battle? I had to do something. I could not fight like you and Nari, but I could tell our story. I could show the galaxy what was happening." Taiho looked at her with new respect. "You are braver than you think, Bora. I learned from watching you." The colonial governor arrived the next day, full of apologies and offers. "Mr. Taiho, the colony owes you a debt we cannot repay. You exposed the Syndicate's activities in our territory. You revealed the corruption in our government. You are a hero." Taiho looked at the man with tired eyes. "I do not want to be a hero. I just want to go home." "Of course. Whatever you need. We can provide security, resources, anything." "I do not need security. The Syndicate is finished here. Then what do you need?" Taiho thought about the question. He thought about his empty farm, his silent house, his days of doing nothing but waiting. "I need building materials," he said finally. "I need to add a room to my house. Maybe 2. Nari and Bora were granted full asylum by the galactic community. They could go anywhere they wanted, live on any world, start new lives away from the fear that had chased them for years. Bora was the first to ask the question. "What will you do now, Taiho? Will you go back to your farm?" "Yes. Someone has to check on the harvest. Will it be lonely? Living out there by yourself?" Taiho was quiet for a long moment. He looked at Nari, who was pretending not to listen. He looked at Bora, whose eyes were full of hope and worry. "I suppose it could be lonely," he said slowly. "Unless I had company." Bora's face lit up. "Really? You would want us to stay?" "The farm is big enough. I would have to build another room, maybe 2. And there would be work to do. The drones cannot do everything. I can help with the drones," Bora said excitedly. "Daisy and Rose and Lily, I miss them." Nari stepped forward. Her expression was guarded, but Taiho could see the hope underneath. "You would really let us live with you? After everything that happened? We brought violence to your home. We almost got you killed. You also brought something else." "What?" Taiho thought about the past weeks. The laughter, the arguments, the meals shared around a small table. The feeling of waking up with purpose instead of emptiness. "You brought me back to life," he said. "I had forgotten how to live. You reminded me." Nari's eyes grew wet. She turned away quickly, hiding her face. "You are ridiculous, human," she muttered. "Absolutely ridiculous." "I know." "Is that a yes?" "It is not a no." 1 year later, the farm looked different. 2 new rooms had been added to the farmhouse, connected to the main building by a covered walkway. Nari's room was spare and practical, with weapons mounted on the walls and a training mat in the corner. Bora's room was filled with color, with drawings and plants and strange alien objects she had collected on her journey. The communication array from the old station had been moved to the barn, where Bora ran a school for other refugee children scattered across the sector. She taught them languages and science, and Hope.NAR I had become something like a local legend. Stories spread about the Blue Dragon who protected the colony from raiders and criminals. She would never admit it, but she enjoyed the reputation, and Tai-Ho, for the first time in years, felt like himself again. He stood on the porch as the sun set, watching the sky change colors. Behind him, he could hear Bora arguing with Nari about something unimportant. The farm drones hummed past, their flower names now painted on their sides. On the shelf inside, the old photographs stood upright again. Yuna and Somi smiled at the room from their frames. Beside them, in a new frame, was Bora's drawing of the double dawn. "Dinner is ready," Bora called from inside. "Coming," Tai-Ho replied. He took one last look at the sunset. Somewhere out there, in the vast darkness between stars, there were still syndicate slavers and hunted refugees and people who had given up hope. But here, on this small farm on a forgotten colony world, there was a family. A strange family made of different species and different pasts and different wounds. But a family nonetheless. Tai-Ho walked inside, and he was smiling. He had not stopped smiling in months. Nari was complaining about the food being too spicy. Bora was defending her cooking skills. The drones were beeping outside, doing their endless work. It was loud and messy and alive. It was everything Tai-Ho had thought he would never have again. And as he sat down at the table with his strange, wonderful, impossible family, he understood something important. Grief never really goes away. The people we lose stay with us forever, living in the empty spaces they left behind. But those spaces do not have to stay empty.